Hello, beautiful Stronger Through It family. It's Angie and Diana.
Hello, everyone.
We're sharing a very special story, part one of a two-part series, and this one is extremely personal. The title of it is 14 in Love and Completely Lost. And it's extra special and extra personal because the main character in this story is your very own Angie. Diana will be kind of guiding us through the sharing of this story. So, Diana, take it away.
Hello, everybody. I hope everyone's doing well. And as Angie mentioned, so we are going to talk about a little bit about her life, and let's get to it. So Angie, tell me, how was life for you at 14? Like the relationship with your parents? What was going on in Angie's world at the time?
Well, the year was 1997, and I would say that I was, your typical teenager. I was very excited about starting high school at the time, and just kind of going through the teenage phases. I was starting high school, and I remember that I was really initially focused on doing well. I've always really enjoyed school, and I was excited about starting this new chapter and really giving it my all from an academic perspective. At home, as far as a family perspective, well, I come from a family of two immigrant parents that were, always very hard workers, and they had their own set of issues, from a relationship perspective that kind of trickled throughout, really me growing up. And a lot of that had to do with, my dad healing from alcoholism. And, there was just a lot of trauma, I think, at home with fights and just a lot of emotional baggage that I think I was maybe overloaded with at that age. At 14, you're trying to fit in, you're trying to find your spot.
Yeah, I would say definitely that as a teenager is your social life is definitely top priority.
Yeah, definitely.
So let me ask you, what did love mean to Angie when she was 14?
I don't think Angie had a clue, but I would say that if I thought back to what we were taught love was, it was very much fairy tale-ish like. I mean, if you grew up in a Latin household, telenovelas or soap operas are a part of just your life. And so, a lot of the telenovelas were stories of impossible loves. And so
With a
you,
happy ending.
exactly, with a happy ending, all of them.
So tell me, at what age did you have your first boyfriend and what was it like?
So that's interesting. That's a good question. I actually had my first boyfriend when I was 13. And it's funny because I was in middle school and I got a note from this boy that was in like three or four of my classes. And he never said anything to me, but every so often he would smile and I would smile back. And at the time, I was in my shell a lot. I think a lot of it had to do with, what was going on at home and just my own insecurities, that I was dealing with at that age. But he wrote me a note and asked me if I wanted to be his girlfriend. And it said, circle yes or no. You remember those, right?
Yes, most definitely, along with the notebooks
Yes,
and the origami letters.
exactly. So I got one of those and I circled yes because I just, it was like, wow, like someone actually thinks, I'm pretty. Like that was a big deal. And so I got home and I told my dad about it. I pretty much asked him if I could have a boyfriend. And he like just about lost his mind. And he was like, absolutely not. Are you crazy? And so I immediately realized that that was the incorrect conversation to have with my dad and my mom. And so I proceeded to have this relationship, but I hid it from my parents. But the funny thing is that this was such an innocent relationship. I mean, we wrote each other notes. He walked me to my classes. He held my books, and but like I don't even think he held my hand. Like never kissed me. You know, it was just like we were so
Innocent.
innocent. Yeah, it was like super cute.
And isn't it amazing that at that time, just the simplicity of that relationship was all that you needed? It meant like the world to you just to be able to say to your friends or that the school knew that you had a boyfriend.
Yeah, that's like, I find that so silly now, but you're right. It was everything at that age.
So we'll skip on. So tell me about the boy.
Well, this boy that I had as a boyfriend at 13, that wasn't the same boy that I made this crazy decision with. So, going back to middle school, there was a boy that he was very popular among girls, like super popular, and we're gonna call him Jay. This boy was like super popular among the girls, and at the time I was in seventh grade, so he was a year older than me. And I never really talked to him, but you knew of him because all the girls were, goo goo gaga over him. So
Yeah. I mean, there wasn't a single girl who didn't know who he was.
exactly. And so fast forward, eighth grade, there is this movie comes out. You remember Selena? Selena comes
Yeah.
out, and you and I actually went to the movies that day or for the premiere. And so at the movie theater, I ran into this boy. He was there with, his family, also watching the movie. And he ended up noticing me, and he invited us to sit next to him at the theater. So that was the first time that it made me feel super special to be acknowledged by him. And so we sat next to him. Fast forward a few weeks later, he was now in high school, but I was in eighth grade, and I was leaving school, and it was raining like very heavily. And so he happened to be visiting the middle school for whatever reason. To make a long story short, he sees me and he acknowledges me again. And then he ended up offering up his umbrella. And so, I mean, you remember that because you would not stop like making fun of how I was going to frame the umbrella and, it was going to be such a special umbrella. And yes, I did keep the umbrella. It was just one of those things that you're just like, oh, how romantic. But then enter high school. I go to high school, and he had just broken up with another girl that I knew, and we ended up kind of chatting again. And that's really where the relationship develops. Was I was in ninth grade of high school. He was a sophomore. He definitely had a very flirtatious personality.
Yeah. And just for everyone, I want to set up the scene as far as he goes. He was the kind of guy that the reason why girls liked him so much, and including me, but I did not have a crush on him. I liked him as a person. I thought he was pretty cool, was because he's the kind of person that is so charismatic and he's
Yes. Mm-hmm.
very vibrant, and he makes you feel like you're the only person in the room and that his full on attention is on you. Nobody else matters. And
Yep.
it's not a thing that he just does with a person that he likes. That's just the way it is with him. Like if you engage in a conversation with him, he makes you feel listened, and he just really does make you feel like you're the only one in the room, whether he's
Yes.
interested in you or not.
That is so spot on. So when this popular, super hot, quote unquote guy is like giving me attention, I'm like, OMG.
So tell me, what was your guys' first date like?
Okay, so my first date was ditching school. So he was like the bad boy.
Yeah.
And he really introduced me to these habits that I was always like, I was always the good girl. Like I was always the one that would never even think of missing school. I wouldn't even think of, skipping out on an assignment or a test. Like I was always really dedicated to, doing everything right. So he steps into my picture and, he has like this daring personality and, and then so he invited me to skip school. And of course, I wanted to look cool and, be liked by him. So we skipped school. And I want to say we went to the park or we went like somewhere walking and just talked.
Okay. And can you tell me a little bit of his background, like what his family was like, what he was like?
He just had all this um, flexibility, or he was like all this freedom, I guess, to do whatever he wanted, where I was, like very monitored by my parents. Like I grew up, in a very strict household. So our upbringing was definitely very different as well.
Yeah, and mind you, for Hispanic families, this is the norm. It's very strict with, usually it tends to be pretty strict with girls,
Yes.
actually very strict with girls.
Mm-hmm.
Um, every move we make is under a microscope, but then, with the boys, they're a lot more lenient. Like, there's a lot more freedom for them versus what there is for a girl.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Because they're men.
Yeah, they're men, even though,
They're not even boys.
well,
They're men. They're born men.
within the time span, like, what time span would you say from the moment that you met him
Hmm.
to the moment where you're like, I'm in love? Like, how long of a time span was that?
It was probably just maybe a couple weeks or something. I don't think it was that long, if that, maybe a couple weeks, if that. And I say that because remember, I'm a girl who, yeah, I was struggling like to find my identity. I was struggling with self-love.
Hmm.
Um, and I was struggling with a lot of things at the time. So I feel like when I absorbed his attention very quickly.
Hmm.
And I think for him, I was another girl, because like you said, he was very charismatic and very flirty and everyone, like with all
Hmm.
girls. But for whatever reason, I took it very personal. And for me, it became like, oh my gosh, he loves me. And so when, the relationship, when he started to kind of take the relationship, you know, eh, um, more physical, I I went along with it out of fear
Hmm.
that he would stop choosing me.
You. So, okay, and now stepping back into what we were talking previously, how did the physical aspect of this relationship begin?
Well, he got very touchy feely very quickly. And like I said, I think for me, I feared stopping it or putting brakes on it because I didn't want to look like a nerd. Like I wanted him to like me. And so I let it happen. Like I should have listened to my gut and known that pumping the brakes was very important, especially in a relationship that, was really not a relationship.
But if we're
This.
being kind of honest, Angie, and
Hmm.
I'm thinking this as a 14-year-old,
Hmm.
um, the reality of it all, in my thoughts, the reality of it all is he was after one thing and one thing only.
Yeah.
And should he had not gotten that from you,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he knew your vulnerability.
Yeah.
Sorry. And I think he took advantage of that because he knew that, and I think that at the time, if most likely if you wouldn't have given in to the physical aspect of that relationship, I think you're 100% right that he would have said like, "Oh, well, you know what? If you can't, that's fine. It's not a problem because there's others in line waiting." And that the reality of it all, that was the fact, because
Yeah.
he there wasn't a single girl he didn't talk to.
And I knew that. I knew that if I didn't allow for the relationship to take that route, that I was jeopardizing, this the love of my life. Because somehow you feel or you believe that this one person is the only person that is ever going to give you attention, that is ever going to choose you, that it's ever going to love you.
Okay, so now the physical aspect of this has happened.
Mhm.
What changed within you afterwards?
Well, for me, it was a huge deal. I mean, this was, he was my first, and that is like, again, you have this ingrained in you that you marry that person, like that is your person, and that not being the situation is a devaluement of you as a girl. Yeah.
And I think it also plays with your integrity too.
Yes, you don't have the capacity to think of that or think that the world is so big and that life has so many other chapters. You only kind of see life. At 14, you see it as one chapter and one chapter only. For me, it was a huge deal. And so I refused to accept anything other than, well, you know what? Like, this is it. And going back to our culture, unfortunately, I think that definitely plays on, our decision making and how we kind of view the world, where it
Hmm.
makes it a little bit easier to feel like that's the next best thing. I mean, as crazy as it sounds, at 14,
Hmm.
I have, given my virginity to this person, so now this must mean that I have to marry him. That's the mentality, unfortunately, that we are raised with.
And I think we should add to that the other part of this mentality is that, like, we kind of get taught to also belittle ourselves or become less than, because the relationship itself is more important than you. Those examples to me came from my own grandmother.
Yeah,
From my own grandmother, because she always said, she's like, relationships don't last this long just because you love each other. It all they also last this long because you as a woman have to put up with what the man brings home. And if you have any integrity and you want to portray to the world that that you are a family woman, then you're going to put up with whatever the man says, because he takes care of the household per se. And it's like he makes the money, he goes out and works, so he gets to do whatever he wants while you're
right.
at home taking care of everything. And according to them, that's the way it should be.
It's a lot of, what is it? A lot of generational curses that,
Hmm.
we have to break through for the upcoming generations. And, even a lot of healing that needs to take place in
Yeah,
our own hearts, because these are the stories, that we're
that shape
taught.
our decisions,
Yeah.
because then, whether anybody wants to believe it or not, I mean, that sticks with us.
Yeah.
And those are definitely why sometimes we end up making, I'm sad to say, these horrible decisions for ourselves, because we want to be true to what we've been taught. So I guess the other part of the question is, how did once the relationship became physical, we discussed already how it made you feel. So how did your relationship with him change?
So soon after, very soon after, we took the relationship into a physical place, my parents find out that I'm skipping school.
Mhm.
And so that created chaos at home. I mean, obviously, they were extremely upset, very angry, very disappointed, and, as they should be. When they found out, they immediately prohibited, that I see him, that I continue to see him. And everything that we've discussed, I feel like that physical aspect really took on my end the relationship to more of an obsession. You become so in going back to, that fairy tale, whatever your concept is of love, and you have to fight for love, and you have to do whatever it takes. And so all these things from the telenovelas and the movies and whatever else we are surrounded with, that
And Disney, because they play a big
exactly.
part too.
Oh yeah, for sure. So I felt like all of a sudden I felt like I was being taken away from the love of my life.
So
What?
basically, it was more like it was. I mean, obviously, love played a part into it, but also the desperation and the fear of losing him
Yes,
when somebody takes away even something that you didn't even think you wanted, but something it suddenly gets taken away. You want it more because it's not
absolutely.
available to you.
Yeah. And so I basically, told him, I said, my parents are trying to separate us. So we have to fight. We have to stay together. Funny enough, yeah, like you said, desperation, but he fed into the desperation. That's what led us down the path of making a really bad decision.
So then you're concerned and you're worried about your relationship ending because of your parents' decision. So at this point, it's when you guys decide to start a life together.
Yeah. So basically, so remember, my parents find out, they prohibit that I speak with him, and they pretty much lock me in my room, throw away the key, per se. If they were strict before, they like quadrupled that. When that happens, we ended up finding a way to communicate through mutual friend. So I wrote him a letter, and the friend delivered it to him. And I just told him, I said, listen, like things at home are bad, which, was true. But, I love you. I want to be with you. And if you want to be with me, we have to leave our homes. And we ended up coming up with a plan to meet up. So he went to get me from school. I mean, again, he had no vehicle, so this is a whole lot of walking, but he had gotten suspended from school at that time, from the school that we were both in, for a different reason. And so when that happens, his parents are trying to relocate him to a different school, like in a different town. And so all these things are happening at the same time. It was like the perfect
Wait
storm.
a minute,
Yeah.
was he expelled?
Yeah, he was expelled.
Oh,
I just realized this, Diana, but he was also going through, a little bit of a panic situation with that. So, I guess I have the panic of being torn apart from him, and he's over here panicking that, his life is also changing, and came up with the plan. So he came to my high school. I had a backpack that I had, like I went to school as normal one morning, and but I had left a backpack at home with just, a couple outfits and just a few like essentials. I had a little bit of money from like on the weekends I used to work at the flea market. We took that, and we ran away from home at 14. And we ran away twice. That was the first time we ran away.
did you guys first run off to?
So the only thing we knew was that we had to leave somewhere where we wouldn't be found by his parents or my parents. I remember we walked to quite a few miles to the local like train station in our city, and we got on a train that took us to the downtown Chicago, which was what, like 40 minutes. And the funny thing is that I'll never forget, I've reflected on this particular moment several times, and I'm always in awe because when we got to the train station, we had no idea whatsoever. I mean, we have like a few dollars in our pockets. He has a backpack, I have a backpack. And I'm 14, he's 15 at the time. And so we get to the train station, and I don't know if it was like written on our faces just from, the worry and kind of the stress or the exhaustion from walking to the train station. But there was a man, like an older man, and he looked at us, and I don't know, he must have figured out that we were running away because he started like a conversation with, my boyfriend at the time, and somehow it leads to us admitting that we didn't have family specifically in Chicago, or that we were headed to Chicago, but we didn't know, we were going to figure out where we were going. And so this man proceeds to offer us somewhere to stay. He said, if you guys need a place to stay, I have friends in Chicago where you are welcome to stay. It's not very glamorous. He said, and there's a lot of people that live there, and a lot of people like to party hard, and they like to, drink and do their thing. He said, but at least for now, it'll be somewhere for you guys to stay. And Diana, I've gone back to that moment hundreds of times because I really believe that we had protecting angels like over us. I believe that if we would have taken this opportunity, which seemed to be served on a silver platter, like I wouldn't be here telling this story. In retrospect, now thinking back, this was, like one of those drug houses, and the people that he was referring to were definitely not up to any good. And so I've wondered what my life would have been like if I would have ended up going there. The good thing is that somehow God enlightens my boyfriend at the time, and he declines his offer. And so we jump on the train and we head to downtown Chicago. With the little money that I had, we were able to get a room in this like really chinky hotel downtown. And we lived there for 3 weeks before we were found.
Wow.
Yeah.
So tell me, can you tell me a little bit of what was going through your parents' heads? Like, what was happening with them during the time that you had left?
Oh my gosh. As a mom now, I very deeply apologize to my mom for putting her through that hell. Honestly, so I know that I left them a letter when I left to Chicago. I wrote them a letter just saying, listen, I love you, but I love him, and we have to be together. And this is the only way to be together. My parents, they flipped every possible, like they contacted every person that they knew I was friends with. I was on the news, as a runaway. They really, I mean, my mom, I saw her obviously a month later when we were found, and she looked like she had aged 10 years within that month. I definitely never thought about what I put them through at the time. I mean, you're selfish and you're blinded by, what you want. And at the time, um, this person. And so we are downtown Chicago, which Chicago is like a huge, huge, huge city. And the way that we are found the first time is because after 3 weeks, my boyfriend wanted to reach out to his parents because remember, his parents are also looking for the son. And he
Hmm.
contacts his father, and the call is then traced to the hotel where we were staying. And that's how we were found the first time.
And so, what would you say were some of the hardships that you guys went through during that month that you were away?
I would say we were still kind of in that honeymoon stage. And so the only hardship being, we had no money. Our money was, depleting.
Dwindling.
And so we were like selling. I sold a necklace that my dad gave me. But other than that, I mean, I was in stupid zone, like living this fairy tale of finally being with the man of my dreams. Now the second time we run away, which I know we'll talk about in the next episode, that I we ended up leaving completely out of state. We left for a total of 6 months, and we had to get jobs.
Okay, and since we're now on that, well, so you get caught now, like
Hmm.
your parents finally find you. Obviously you come back home. How was life at home when you came back the first time around?
Well, if you could imagine my parents being even more strict, that happened. They locked me down with 5 locks and throw away those 5 keys.
Mhm.
Um, but and out of panic, I mean, and rightfully so,
So,
they were very cautious. I wasn't allowed to talk to anyone. I wasn't allowed to, I think I was only allowed to talk to you. Um, but
yeah,
I,
but even then, like I remember that our calls were supervised, remember?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, by both of our parents, mine as much as hers. Like
yeah,
I remember like if you would call, my mom would like stand next to me and be like, put it on speaker or something so they could hear
yeah.
the conversations that we were having.
For a couple of months, like every move is under the microscope. My every move is under the microscope.
Mm. Now, at the time, were they allowing you to walk to school or would they like pick you up and drop you off?
No, my parents couldn't pick me up and drop me off because they
Mhm.
had to work.
Work.
But I did walk to school. I was supervised by either somebody else's parent,
Hmm.
or my parents would call the school to verify that I was at school, like every
Okay.
day. So yeah, I was like, there was no very little room for me to have any, I couldn't even breathe on my own at the time. My boyfriend comes back. He ends up being moved away to, that other town.
Wasn't
Um,
he moved to Wayne for a little while?
no,
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 it wasn't.
he was
Mhm.
moved to Seville.
Oh, okay, okay.
And so, he's doing his thing over there. But we still found a way to communicate, believe it or not. So I was able to,
High school
again,
payphones?
write him letter. No, we used to communicate through
You?
note.
Oh, okay.
Little by little, my parents start kind of bringing down their guard, and they allowed me to get a part-time job. I then get a job at a local grocery store, and they kind of started to let slightly looser, like they would drop me off, pick me up, and all that good stuff. But the crazy thing is that, being able to communicate with my boyfriend, and he then, like, he would go visit me during my
Mhm.
breaks, and that's how we stayed in communication. Yeah, I mean, again, I'm in my fairy tale, impossible love story in my head. And he's also going through his little hurdle with dealing with the consequences of his decisions that led him to being expelled from school and sent away to live with, another family member in a different town. And so we came to the consensus that we just couldn't stand our lives anymore apart. So we had to absolutely leave a second time, and this time make sure that we were really not found. But yeah, so
So,
part two of this
yes.
story, I'll tell you where we went, and that is when the reality of this relationship hits me, and I realize that I am in a very unhealthy and toxic relationship. And eventually, obviously, it's the journey back to myself, to finding myself, acknowledging your mistakes.
But yeah, we will definitely get to part two on that.
So part two in the
Yes,
works.
yes, part two in the works.
All right. Until next time.